Okay. Okay.
Hold on there! Before you start the game, I need to ask you a few things. Don't want you getting lost now.
Okay.
First of all, have you read the first story?
Nope.
Seduce Me the Otome?
No.
Like, seriously read it.
No.
No skimming, no pretending to read it. No. It's okay if you haven't, but there are a lot of things in this game that you won't understand unless you fully experienced and understood that story first.
I think it's gonna be okay. No.
Phew, good thing I asked, huh? Well, then let me summarize everything for you and get you up to speed.
Oh, God. Hang on, I gotta lower the volume a little bit. It's a little bit intense. Okay.
You are the granddaughter of a CEO who is known for his heart of gold and the charity he did with his company, the Anderson Toys Company.
Uh-huh.
He treated you like his own daughter, while your real father expected you to become perfect at school and set for your future.
Sounds like a rap hit.
Unfortunately, one day your grandfather passed away unexpectedly.
Oh, no.
While the event was indeed sad, he left you with his mansion and his share of the company. Because your father wanted you to learn independence, he forced you to move in the day after. How rude is that?
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Anyway, when you moved in, you found 5 pretty sexy-looking, wounded men in your lobby who claimed to be incubi, demons who feed on sexual energy. Like, score.
God, help me.
We have James, the eldest, Eric, the sly second, Sam, the brutish third, Matthew, the childish fourth, and Damien, the quiet fifth. All of them have different abilities and personalities, but they all have the same father, so they're technically brothers. Anyway, they were running away from a group of thugs led by a devil named Malix. Because they were wounded and because you had a good heart, you let them stay until they healed up and defeated him fair and square. That didn't go as planned. Without getting into too much more detail about what happened, you get kidnapped by Malix and then proceeded to kick his ass. That's what he gets for being a prick.
Uh-huh.
Still, a deal is a deal, so when the boys found you and brought you home, you asked them to honor their end of the agreement, and they left. But you met Diana.
I love her!
Diana is a succubus princess who wanted to bring the boys back to the demon world and take her place as queen of their kingdom. Apparently, they are princes, and Diana was promised to marry one of them so that their father, the demon lord, wouldn't attack her kingdom and burn it to the ground like he did to multiple others.
Yeah, I've heard a lot worse voice acting myself. It's just... man.
However, she needed to stop by your place first and erase your memories of everything that happened.
Oh, no.
Why? Well, basically, humans aren't allowed to know about magic and demons and stuff. So, if a non-human found someone with knowledge of magic, they have to erase their memories. Sucks, huh?
Yeah.
You convinced her to let you keep your memories for a little while longer, in exchange for learning more about magic and stuff. You were desperate. If it meant keeping your memories longer, it was worth it in the end if you got to know about everything first.
How does that even make sense? Alright, so the concept is, if you're human and you know magic and shit, then they wipe your memory because you're not supposed to have it. It was like, no, please, don't erase my memory about magic and shit. Teach me more about it instead. What? How does that even work?
Diana agreed and stayed, teaching you about angels and vampires and the demon world and all sorts of fun stuff. She stayed for a very long time. Longer than she should have. Then again, you forget about the time when you're with someone you grow to care about. You and her got very close, but when you finally learned everything and you are about to lose your memories, Diana reveals one last thing.
That she's evil.
She tells you about how she and the boys got to the human world.
They killed people.
Your grandfather dabbled in magic and, long story short, brought the boys to the human world to help them escape their noble lives. When they left, Diana did everything to hunt them down in order to save her kingdom from being attacked. She found your grandfather and used the rest of his life force to come to the human world as well, killing him. Essentially, Diana was the reason your grandfather died.
Grandpa!
After an emotional moment and a deep conversation, you and her agreed to let you keep your memories, and she continued to stay with you, teaching you more about magic out of repentance for taking your grandfather's life. But she couldn't stay for long. One night, she snuck out to try and leave. The demon lord was a big threat, and Diana needed to protect her kingdom at all costs. However, you stopped her and told her to bring you with her to the demon world.
Why?
When she refused, you made a deal with her. You would help her fight back against the demon lord. Then she would return with you to the human world to continue teaching you about magic. Diana finally agreed, but I think it was because she liked you.
Yeah? Yeah, did you scissor and shit?
And now you're about to jump into her route, if you know what I mean. Sound like fun?
I wanna fuck her. Totally.
Great! Diana's pretty cool, so I think you'll enjoy her story. Anyway, I have one last question for you. Some people like hearing the trigger warnings before they start games, while others don't really care and just want to play. It's cool either way, but do you want to know about some of the content listed in the game?
Nah.
Alright then. Oh, just so you know, though, anytime you have the choice to have sex, you can totally say no and still get the good endings. Consent is very important, regardless of who you are.
Brothers. We gotta do this, man. We got this.
I think that should be everything. All right. Phew, that took a while.
Yeah, that took her a long time to get through all that, actually. Wow!
You forgot something.
Holy shit, Diana's got... That's Diana? That's who she is? She's stacked.
Huh? What did I forget?
Sex is very important.
You forgot about the disclaimer.
Oh, what's the disclaimer?
Oh, crap! Oh, how could I have forgotten about that?
Yeah, you're a fucking idiot, Kay.
It's fine, I'll take care of it. This game was produced by Michaela Laws using the Ren'Py visual novel engine. We truly hope you enjoy this story.
Thanks.
Thanks, Diana. Now, don't you have a war to go fight?
I do. I just wanted to make sure everything was in order before the story began. I'll take my leave now.
Thanks, Di.
Do not call me Di.
Die.
Anyway, we really do hope you like the story. Have fun! See you at the end.
What's your name? Enter to continue. Well, my name's Hansel. I love anime. I was in love with a succubus. It was true. I had fallen for the charms of a succubus, and I was about to dive headfirst into the demon world with her to save her kingdom.
Do you have any regrets?
None. I smiled as Diana held me in her arms and carried us both through the night sky. We had shared a sweet kiss and the first of hopefully many kisses in the future. We were about to cast a spell to enter the demon world. Diana looked to the ground that was far below us and pointed her hand down towards it, closing her eyes.
Revitara tenebras, gerato locum, pater portas.
Portas. As the last word left her mouth, a large purple pentagram appeared in the grass, before twisting and becoming a black void. I gripped onto Diana, scared at what I was seeing.
Last chance.
That one didn't have any fucking filter. I gulped at the sight, not sure of what to make of this. Was this really what I wanted to do? My curiosity, however, guided my decision and forced me to take a deep breath. I closed my eyes and let calm wash over me before looking up to Diana. Let's go. Diana smiled and wrapped both arms around me, laying a protective hand over my head.
Hang on.
I tightened my grip on Diana, obeying her command. As I held tight, I felt air quickly begin to rush past our bodies as Diana tilted back and began to let us fall towards the ground. Was she insane? I looked at Diana, seeing her smirk at me before closing her eyes. I did the same, naturally preparing for an impact with the ground. What I felt was a cool rush of energy brushing over my skin, as if I had fallen into water. I slowly opened my eyes and found myself staring into a vast, dark space, holding onto a woman who was no longer wearing clothes. I was clinging to a woman who had no clothing. I had to make sure you knew that, but instead had purple marks across her skin and horns adorning her head. However, I could tell that this woman was still Diana just by looking into her eyes. Diana smiled at me and kissed my forehead before tightening her hold on me and muttering softly,
Adlilith Castra.
I held onto her body as I felt us begin to move through the space, as if a giant fan had pushed us forward. Onward, we continued through the darkness, with me unsure of where we were going and Diana guiding the way. We began to slow and soon a small light appeared, slowly growing as we got closer to it. I had shut my eyes as it began to consume us. I felt weightless. I couldn't feel anything except the woman in my arms, and it felt somehow exquisite. I wanted to drown in this feeling, become lost to it. However, our journey through the light was coming to an end. The light around us faded away, and soon I found myself lying on Diana as she lay on a stone floor. The air, however, smelled of fire and blood. I looked up, seeing fire everywhere in sight. What the hell? This was the demon world? I was expecting ice cream!
Isaiah!
A loud shout forced me to look over and see a man running at me with a spear and a rage-filled expression. I screamed and rolled off of Diana, scooting away to avoid being skewered. As he continued toward me, I screamed!
No!
I looked up to see Diana kneeling in front of me, gripping the man's spear, pointing it away from her. The man stared wide-eyed at Diana as she glared back.
My lady, you live?
Of course I do. I told you I would return, and thus I have.
The man gave a small sigh of relief, lowering his weapon and propping it up to lean against it. As I examined him now that he wasn't gunning for me, he was wounded and exhausted, panting heavily and gripping his spear tightly.
I'm so glad.
As he finally toppled over, Diana gasped and rushed over, kneeling beside him.
Settle!
I rushed over as well, wanting to see what was going on. Who was he? Why did he attack me? Why was the room on fire?
Settle! What happened?
We were attacked by the demon lord. He took advantage of your absence.
I began to cough violently. We needed to get out of this room, wherever we were. Diana! We need to get out of here! Diana nodded and grabbed my hand and Sarah's, chanting under her breath. The room around us began to shift as if it were changing instead of us moving. Soon, we were outside a castle, staring at its flames erupted from each window. What was happening? Diana's face was a pure shock, staring at the castle in absolute terror. All of the color, besides the purple marks on her skin, had faded to a pale white in horror.
We drove them back, but the flames are too powerful.
At that moment, something in Diana's eyes changed. Her anger sparked, and she stood, quickly walking around us and toward the castle. Diana!
Come! I command thee, white winds! Crush these fires beneath your hands!
I stared as the wind in the air quickly began to pick up, and a purple glow began to surround Diana's body. It was like a storm was rushing towards us, but there was no rain or thunder, just wind. The winds forced back the flames that danced in the windows, and smoke began to rise from each one, signaling the death of the fire. The windows continued to be filled with wind and air, most likely to kill the flames deep within the walls. I, however, could only stare at Diana. Her body was rigid and her tits were rocking as she focused intently on the stone castle. Soon, the winds began to die out, and all that was left was smoke rising from the windows into the dark purple and black sky.
You did it. How?
Diana looked to Sero, intensity still embedded in her eyes.
Where are the king and queen?
I heard Sero's breath hitch and turned to look at him. He had a look of pure pain and guilt. What had happened? Diana walked over and stared down at him. Now almost glaring daggers at him, she clenched her fist at her sides.
Speak, Sero!
The imp demons. While we were fighting the flames in the army, the imp demons snuck through our defenses.
My heart, despite not fully understanding the situation, began to tighten. Something was incredibly wrong. Sero shut his eyes as a pair of demons I assumed to be allies rushed over and began casting magic over his body, closing his wounds.
They snuck into their room.
Diana suddenly turned and bolted toward the castle, causing me to jump up. Diana! I began to sprint after her, following her inside the castle and trying to keep up with her. Her panicked breath kept me following her direction, despite her fast twists and turns through the ashy corridors.
No.
I could hear Diana sobbing, praying as she ran. I did my best to keep up, not wanting to lose her and not wanting her to be alone right now. We turned into a long hallway that had a pair of golden doors at the end. They were unscathed, as if the flames had not disturbed the door, or perhaps the room behind it.
Please be alive. Please!
Diana bolted for the doors and began to pull them open, grunting at the weight. I stopped, running, skidding forward from the abrupt stop. Whomever she wanted alive, I hope that they were as well. As the doors finally opened, however, the foul stench of blood erupted from behind them, the scent filling my nostrils. Gah! Diana flung the doors wide open and could only stare at the sight we both saw. Blood. Blood covered the floor, the walls, the ceiling. The entire room was painted in in gore, skin, bone, and massive amounts of blood. Only 3 things barely coated in red stood in the middle of the room on the ground. 2 broken crowns, and a small tiara that was barely large enough to fit a newborn's head.
No.
Diana slowly walked into the room, the blood on the ground painting her bare feet, and she fell to her knees in front of the items, staring down at them. I couldn't bring myself to enter the room with her. I watched as she lifted them to her chest, curling her shoulders over herself and shaking almost violently.
Father. Mother. Oribel.
As she continued to grieve over the ornaments in her hands, a dark, almost deadly and evil-looking aura surrounded her body. It began to flicker and grow, like a dark flame that wanted to engulf the room she knelt in. As it reached an apex and began to violently flicker through the room around her, Diana arched her back and screamed to the ceiling, her voice heavily laced with magic, pain, and rage. She was mad! Watching her body burn in the intense black and purple flame-like energy made my heart stop in fear. I had never seen her like this, and I was scared as to where her anger would drive her next. I should watch in silence, or stop her. Watch in silence or stop her. Watch in silence, I stopped her. As heartbreaking as this situation was, I couldn't let anger consume her. Not like this. If she wanted to vent her rage, then it was better to aim it at the ones who wronged her, not let it burn in the room where her family had died. I stepped into the room, blocking the waves of energy from my face with my arms, and eventually made my way to the screaming Diana. Diana! My words couldn't reach her. I stepped closer, almost towering over her, before dropping to my knees, bracing myself, and wrapping my arms around Diana. Her screaming stopped and her body froze within my arms. Diana quaked like a shivering child in my arms as I pressed her forehead against her against her hair. Diana, we'll get your revenge, but you must save that rage for the fight. I was met with silence as my reply. After a moment, Diana finally slumped into my arms while the energy around her died out.
You're right.
Diana and I left the room with her unable to turn around and look back. We walked through the ashy corridors of the castle, Diana silenced by the sight of her own grief. My heart was heavy for her. Still, the demon lord who had done this was still a threat at large, and who knew when he would return? Diana led the way to a room, which, as expected, was as burnt as could be. However, Diana waved her hand through the air, casting some sort of silent spell. Through some sort of prestidigitation, the ash and soot in the room vanished, and furniture and decor were repaired. We at last stepped in, with Diana slowly lying down on the bed, unable to carry on any further. Looking at Diana's face, her eyes were puffy and red, while their skin almost became void of any color beyond the taint of her demon marks. If she wasn't breathing, one would assume that she was dead. Diana stared at the ceiling, a world of emotions swimming in her eyes. Despite what had happened, at last she spoke.
I need to send you back.
What? Now was not the time to think about me, and I knew it. Besides, I came here for a reason. I wasn't going to go back now knowing that Diana needed support. I had no regrets in coming here, and I would help her through this. No, Diana.
It's too dangerous here.
I don't care, Diana. Diana sat up slowly and looked at me, a form of weak anger in her eyes. However, she knew that it was fruitless to argue with me. I was stubborn. After all, she made a deal with me, and I could see the obligation to obey buried behind her anger. Diana closed her eyes and lowered her head.
The Demon Lord will most likely return.
And we'll be ready for him. I gently took Diana's hand and lifted her chin so that we looked at each other and stuff. The anger that was plaguing her melted into sadness and broken hope as she stared back into my gaze. There were remnants of rogue tears adorning her face, and seeing her so scarred made me frown. I knew that we would get through this. We just needed to rest for now. We would deal with the issues this world brought after.
My lady?
Get the fuck out of here, Sero. Diana and I turned our head to see Sero by the open door, and I stepped away from Diana, giving her space. Behind him, multiple soldiers, that's the word, servants, and other demons rushed down the hall, most likely to check for other issues and possibly try to fix the damage to the castle.
Yes, Sero?
Who is this human?
For a brief moment, I could see a look of disdain in his eyes as he looked at me. However, it only lasted a second as he looked at Diana, waiting for her to reply to him.
Sero, this is my guest. She came back with me too.
She? What? Bitch, I'm Hansel and I'm a dude. Diana looked at me, trying to find the words to my eyes. What was I to her? My curiosity bubbled as I awaited the completion of her answer.
She came to aid me in this war.
How fucking dare you, Diana?
But what of your fiancé?
What?
What of the other sons?
Oh! 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 Oh!
They are gone. They have disappeared into the human world, and I can no longer trace them. I have failed.
The guilt and grief in Diana's voice deepened, most likely reminding herself that she saw the results of failing moments ago. Sero, however, stepped up to Diana and knelt in front of her, surprising me. Surprise Hansel's demon magic made you into a woman. Fuck! Surprising me. What was he doing? He was a guard, first off. Why was he being bold enough to step to her?
You didn't fail, my lady. The Demon Lord attacked us despite giving us his word that he would wait for you to return.
I'm
He
sorry,
broke his end of the agreement.
I know.
Staring at Diana and Sero, I could see that they had a very close and deep connection. Was Sero a friend, or was he something more? I could recognize the emotions within Sero's eyes as he looked up at Diana. He looked to be in love with her, or at least he had some form of ultimate care for his lady. Sero gently took one of Diana's hands and placed his lips upon it, Instantly, I could almost see energy flow from his body into hers from the kiss alone. Was this how energy transferal worked when you weren't with the giver or receiver? The color in Diana's skin returned, and she let out a sigh as with her body relaxing at last. Sero, however, continued to keep his lips over her hand. Something in my gut irked me about him. I was being cucked. Excuse me. Holy shit, Hydro Jojo. Yo, dude. Holy fuck. Fucking damn, man. Thanks, dude. Fuck. That's ridiculous. I guess you really like demon titties. Not that I was against Diana getting energy, but Sero seemed to be extremely cozy with her, and being that she was someone who I potentially